I'm the CEO, owner, creator, and, and everything, and the janitor too. If you want to be at everything, so. My name is Daniel Lowe, and I'm the CEO of Dan's Custom Lures. I guess it was when I was a kid, back in the days, my granddad liked to eat fish, and I used to go over to the little river over in Baden Springs there at Tazewell County and catch trout. Well, I got a little older and I wanted to use lures and stuff. I seen guys using them on the river, and my granddad said it was too expensive to be buying that junk, so he took an old broom handle and he sawed off and carved it out. And I sat there on the porch watching him thinking, well, this will take all day. You know, your fishing day be gone by the time you got a lure made, but, you know, being a kid. But anyway, he made that lure, and we had an old car paint, you know, can spray paint, and he sprayed it a couple of colors. And he took an old nail and dabbed some eyeballs on it, bored a hole in it, and stuck twisted the wire with a drill back in. Of course, I've got a pair of pliers that does it now, but he drilled and made a little loop, put the hook on it, and then he put a little weight in the bottom of it. Actually took a piece of lead that you use for a sinker, you know, stuck it in the bottom of it, and put some epoxy over it, and then he painted it, you know, Bondo really, actually, and handed it to me. I took it out the first time I tried it. It didn't catch no fish. That irritated me. But he said, you know, naturally the fish ain't biting. Well, they don't bite every day, you know, which was true. But being a, you know, kid, you think, well, you know, it should have bit right off the bat. It was going to be some great lure, but it wasn't a great lure, I don't guess, because it worked the next day, and I was hooked in from then on out. Then I tried to, he had taken a metal piece of steel. I didn't have no table saws and nothing like that to work with, so he took a piece of steel plate. It wasn't very thick, you know, wasn't even 1/8 inch, something like that. He took and cut a hole, a slot down the middle of it, and took a skill saw. You know how a skill saw is, like that. He just placed it up under the bottom and made me a table saw out of it. That way I could raise the blade up, and you know, on a skill saw you can raise it up and down like this. Well, he placed it on the bottom there, and I could run it up and down, adjust me and make me a table saw to cut my wood and stuff with, and I'd have to go out in the woods and get my little pieces of wood that I wanted to use. Or if I was lucky enough to get an old mop handle, I could saw them off real quick that way, you know, and then I could just, and he made me a little lathe out of a sewing machine motor. He took an old railing and made the piece right here with put a bolt in here that would turn, and then he put the motor back there with a little, but it wasn't powerful enough to do much very big lures. But I used that for a while till the motor burned up. Then by that time, you know, I was getting a little older. I could, you know, bought me a Dremel tool for the first time, you know. Then it took off from there. I played with them with the Dremel tool. That's how I got started in that. And then when me and my wife got married, I told her, I said, I want to find me a little house. You can have the house. All I want is a building out back. And I was wanting a little cook stove, you know, like I grew up with an old wood cook stove. I said, I want a cook stove in it. We found this place right here when we bought it. It had the building, and sitting right over here used to be an old bench, a walk thing. We tore it down for now. But there was a miniature cook stove sitting there. And I said, wasn't that ironic? You know, here it is. I wanted my building. And I said, you can have the house and the yard. I just want the building. Well, the first day I come up here to start making my lures in my building, she come up here and she's got obsessive cleaning disorder bad. She don't like no messes. Well, she walked in, I had been cutting a log up, you know, from my lathe, and she said, oh my God, what a mess. I said, honey, it's a wood shop. There's gonna be a mess in it. So I broke her in on that. I said, she still comes up and cleans, but she don't say nothing bad about it, bless her heart. She's a pretty good deal on that. Well, there's quite a few lure makers out there. There's some, pretty good, but they're in different states. There's a lot of lure painters, that paints lures. That's called custom lures, but they're really not custom lures. They're just custom painted, which is nothing, like I told you, there's nothing wrong with that. I just chose to keep my wooden ones going. I'm running out of ideals. I've been making them so long, and I'm trying to hunt new designs and stuff, so I have come up with some, taking some saltwater lures, converting them to freshwater lures, because I figure well, to catch a saltwater fish or to catch a, and if it don't, well, not give it a try, it ain't gonna hurt, so it's turned out pretty good on that. I like sticking with it. I don't know, I just enjoy doing it. I mean, my son says, how do you sit there with the patience to do the stuff you do? I said, it relaxes me, I get, it clears my head. And he's right, sitting around and messing with it. Some people sit and watch me, they go, can't stay here no longer and watch that. Yeah, it's too boring, it bores me out before to get done. I guess it takes good patience, to make sure everything is correct, everything's straight. Oh, you can throw your lures off if you don't get that done. It ain't nothing but just a copy of a fish that's in the water. What you're trying to do is represent something that fish will eat in the water, And that's all it is. It's just trying to replicate the fish that normal fish would eat. That's the reason why some of my lures, everybody says the colors on them stuff, I don't use well, I do, because I've got some right there hanging up. I do use some fluorescent colors and stuff, but if you're around the creek places like around here, just lakes and creeks, you're not really fishing out of the ocean, actually. If you want an ocean lure, I can do it. But I try to stay with the lures that replicate the fish that's already in the water, like the minnows and stuff that's colors on them, and I'll look at the colors of the minnows and, look them up or whatever and try to replicate the same color and try to get them to replicate the same kind of, action that they got, flopping. If you got a topwater lure, you got one called Walk the Dog, he'll shoot this way, shoot that way. He's replicating the injured fish, and something will attack something that's injured quicker than they would have to chase down something that's in good shape. They'll just eat it, get rid of it. Especially a muskie or something, they'll come up and just swallow it and go on about their business. And little does people know, bass don't bite because of something, the way it looks. Bass bite because they're evil little fish. They like to bite stuff just to get it out of their way. If you're irritating him, he'll just eat you. You ain't no more irritating me no more, because I just swallowed you. So that's actually how bass works. Hey, you never heard that, did you? Well, most of them's made out of, some of them's made out of acrylic, but most of it's made out of plastic and stuff, like some of these big brands, lure makers. They make theirs all out of plastic. They just fill them full of beads, and they weight them naturally, so they work. But the beads move around inside. You heard them rattle, repel, and all them bunch. But wooden lures, I put rattles in some of mine, if people want them. And I use a brass rod, and I'll pour BBs down in it. I'll pinch the end of it. You just bite it off, and that flattens it out. And I'll just drop a few BBs in it and cut it off at the end, just sealed up. Then tick, 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 tick. Then I'll just groove in the fish lure belly and put him in there and seal him up. Then you've got a rattle inside your lures, which ain't no big deal to do, but it's nothing great about it. But I just try to stay away from it in case on price wise, because you put too much work on one lure. You want to keep. I try to keep mine at affordable price. So I ain't gonna sit here and say that wood's better than plastic. All I'm saying is, if you buy a lure, you go somewhere and buy one for $5 and you pitch it out there. There's a possibility it's gonna have, it could have a crack in it. And so if it does, it sinks on you. You're on your fishing trip. Your lure fills up with water and it just sunk. It's no good anymore, so you just throw it in the trash and they just wash it out. But a wooden lure, one thing about it, it's not gonna sink. You're gonna beat it and bang it off of anything you want to. You might scratch it up, but you ain't gonna sink it. If it's floating, when you get it, it's gonna stay floating. Because the more you bang it, the lighter it's gonna get when you keep beating paint off of it. Wooden lures, you can make them by hand, any size. I've got them from a 1/2 inch, you can see them back there behind you, and up to 20 inches, you know, if you want them big muscular, you know. And if it breaks, like I told them, anybody breaks one of mine, send it back, I'll get you a better one, so ain't gonna cost you a cent.
So 40 years, why do you keep doing it?
Now, that's a good question. I guess because I love doing it. It's like every one of them, when I still make one, feels exactly, I don't know, I get excited, man, that turned out great. You know, I just get that good feeling about it. I mean, and sometimes I'll leave them up here and nobody's ever seen them. I just sit and look at them. They just look good to me.